educational innovation.
Mobility, telecommuting, globalization, restructuring. You've probably heard these words. You may even have been affected by them in one way or another. But did you realize that until recently, these words were not common in our vocabulary for work? Rapid change is now a reality in our work. We'll explore the pace of change in the work world and how to identify career options in this episode of Career Advantage. Back to Career Advantage. I'm Rebecca Haddock. During the first section of this course, you started to create your personal career profile, your notebook or binder with your responses to the exercises. By now, you should have a better idea about your values, personality, interests, and skills. The next step is to learn more about the work world so you can find career and educational options that fit your personal career profile. In this section of Career Advantage, we'll explore career and educational options. We'll begin by exploring work options. During the next few episodes, you'll learn about changes in the work world, what employers are really looking for, and how work is organized. You'll learn what to look for during your career exploration, as well as techniques to help narrow your options. Remember, you won't find one perfect career, but by the end of this section, you should be able to identify 2 or 3 career options that you want to explore further.
And that's something you want to do early on, because if you can do a number of them, you get a range of experiences. And that's another thing that when they come in early, we can get them into that frame of mind of thinking about their future, even though they don't have the perfect target at the end yet.
Before we can talk about what kinds of jobs exist, we need to look at the fundamental changes that have shaped the work world. The workplace in which you'll find work bears almost no resemblance to the workplace of 70 years ago, and only a vague similarity to that of 20 years ago.
Well, we're in the midst of a fundamental transformation in the whole nature of commerce and work. We're moving out of the Industrial Revolution over the next half century, and we're moving into a new economic era, the information age economy. Now, this is a shift as fundamental as the shift from medieval agriculture to the industrial age. So it's changing already the whole nature of work, and it's going to force us to rethink our concept of work in the 21st century.
There are 4 major changes that have radically and permanently affected the workplace. First, a shift to a knowledge-based economy, an explosion of new technology, globalization, and finally, a dramatic shift in the demographics of the American workforce. These changes have altered not only what kinds of work are available, but also how people find work, and even how they will do their jobs. Let's look at the first major trend, the shift in the American economy. 70 years ago, the United States had an industrial economy that relied on employee muscle. The majority of workers in the U.S. were employed on farms or in factories or mines. During this period, Alfred Sloan invented the assembly line in order to make work efficient and accurate. A generation ago, the country shifted to a service-based economy in which fewer people were employed in jobs that produced industrial goods. Instead, most workers sold services such as advertising, marketing, and accounting, or sold wholesale and retail products. Over 80% of all jobs shifted to desk or service work. Only 30% of General Motors employees worked on the assembly line.
When I was a young man and studying business 30 years ago in economics, we were a nation of blue-collar workers. A third of our workers were on the factory floor just 30 years ago. We've cut that in half. Less than 17% of workers are now in the factories, but we're still the #1 manufacturing power in the world. We're just doing it with less human beings and more intelligent machines, as well as more efficient organization.
Now we're in the midst of another shift towards a knowledge-based economy. This shift will closely resemble the service-based economy in that people will continue to perform desk work. What makes a knowledge-based economy unique is the expectation that employees can manage the information themselves. The Bureau of Labor Statistics predicts in its occupational forecast for the year 2005 that the fastest growing careers are all in high skill, high wage, professional, managerial, and technical areas. The service jobs will not disappear. Just as there are still industrial jobs available like auto worker and steel worker, a significant number of service jobs such as retail and accounting will still be available in the future. However, the fastest job growth will be in areas that involve the management and production of specialized knowledge.
When the factories began to mechanize in the 1960s, a lot of displaced workers in our country were able to relocate, retrain for jobs in white-collar and service work. Now all of these industries are automating and moving into an information age global economy. And yes, there is a new sector emerging as in the past, and it's the quintessential employment sector of the information age revolution. We call them knowledge workers, symbolic analysts. And these are the scientists, the engineers, the professionals, the highly skilled technicians, and the educators.
The changes in the economy can be thought of this way. 70 years ago, most workers made things. 20 years ago, most people sold things. In the very near future, most workers will need to know both what to make and how to sell it.
They have to think of their situation much less like a job seeker and more like a person who's looking for the work that needs doing in the world that they're familiar with. Now that world may be the world of their city or town. It may be, if they're already employed, the world at the company where they work or the organization where they work. If they aren't employed, it may be the world of other people like them, people who have kids who need health care and who need home care and so on.
One of the ways this demand for knowledge workers affects you is that your income is increasingly becoming more dependent on academic credentials. Translation, you need to keep learning to stay employable in today's workplace.
You know, only, what, 20-25% of people in the relevant age group end up going to college and completing it. So 75 to 80% of young people will not get a college degree, and so they're going to have to face a job market that's not very friendly to people without pretty specialized advanced degrees.
A second change that has affected work is the explosion of new technology. Do you remember when standard office equipment was a typewriter, a telephone, and an electric stapler? Not that long ago. Today, 50 million workers use a computer each day in their job. The fax, modem, cell phone, and email are required technologies and will continue to get smaller, faster, and increasingly integrated.
As the baby boomers, really their numbers are a lot greater now, and as the X generation comes on, it's very familiar with computers. That's the way we're going to have to deliver services, because we have to meet our customers' needs, but also because as an industry, we can see that technology can help us lessen our costs, help us be more productive and more effective.
More powerful computers and workstations, point-and-click software, and touchscreens were critical for making technology more accessible. Yet the internet is undeniably the most significant force to increase mainstream interest in technology.
A computer is a tool. It's a personal communication tool. And with the internet, it's a global communication tool. So you can use a computer for all kinds of things to communicate just around your own house, down the street, or if you have a friend who's going to school in Egypt. That's what the computer is there for. And you need to know enough to be able to do those tasks. Now, as always in life, the more you know, the more you can solve problems. But the World Wide Web is the first time we've had a communication system with computers connecting so that the non-techie person can get around. You really don't have to know much.
You can now find information on everything from herbal medicine to gourmet cuisine on the internet. The technology, private enterprise, and entrepreneurial spirit that started the internet continue to spur it on. New technology has affected another important change, globalization. Technology makes it easier to communicate with clients, partners, or even employees in different countries.
Now, with technology, really what's changed is our ability to communicate with people so that we can extend who you know, so that it could be anybody on the planet. And this is a really exciting part of the internet.
Global competition and trade affect all business, regardless of size, industry, or geographic location. We'll discuss globalization of the workplace in greater detail in the next episode. Finally, companies have recognized and responded to the diversity of the American workforce. What is diversity? Best-selling author and management consultant Tom Peters says that diversity is opportunity. The more a business considers people of different ages, genders, ethnicities, and abilities, the more they can address the needs of the global market. Here's an example. If your company sells cars and you realize that more women are involved in the decision to buy cars, then wouldn't you want to hire women to sell the cars too? Many companies develop products to serve customers with different abilities, such as a voice-activated computer for people who can't use their hands or arms to type. What about the company that hires sales associates who speak Spanish, Vietnamese, or Russian, or use American Sign Language? They have the potential to reach more people. Their businesses thrive since they pay attention to these details. Again, diversity is opportunity, not only for the company, but for you, because a diverse workforce means that everyone can contribute and participate.
I think that corporations have finally woken up and realized that diversity is the world. Globalization, the desire to move into new markets, really tap the talents that are available coming out of universities, coming out of school. Organizations say they can't afford not to think broadly about who is potentially available to move into the workplace. And diversity is the world, and so diversity has got to be a serious part of what businesses look at.
Basically, what's behind discrimination are myths and fears and stereotypes about people with disabilities that persist, namely because people with disabilities have been hidden away for so long. We haven't been people's work partners. We haven't been their stockbrokers. And I think as people grow older in the United States and live longer with disabilities, as technology assists in keeping people alive longer and allowing people to be more mobile, people will begin to see people with disabilities like myself in all aspects of society, being productive members, not being the recipients of charity or of services, but actually seeing us as a productive, contributing member of society.
But as a minority, I have grown up knowing all the things that we get called. And while you don't often hear it in your face, you still are aware that people have certain perceptions. I can tell you that as a woman in a profession as a lawyer, having worked in a place like a law firm, it's always a little bit uncomfortable to walk around the offices and to see that nobody looks like you except the support staff, or to go to a nice restaurant with a group of people, whether you're entertaining clients or you're with colleagues, and to realize that everyone in the room is white except for you and the staff that's working at the restaurant or the club. And so you recognize that you might be the first person your client has met who's Mexican-American who isn't their housekeeper. And that's a very chilling realization. And yet you recognize that the importance of affirmative action and programs that have helped people like me become lawyers is that, isn't it great that now they can see that I'm just like anybody else, and that there are people who can become lawyers and doctors, and that our lot in life isn't by nature that we must be farm workers or that we must be the housekeeping staff at the hotels and restaurants.
We'll look at issues related to workplace diversity in greater detail in a later episode. How have all these changes affected your career options? Think about the jobs you and your friends and family have held. Can you name 3 jobs that didn't exist 10 years ago? How about these jobs? Web page designer, information systems manager, bioethicist, digital librarian, diversity manager, maybe even online course instructor.
Well, right now, forensic accounting is very hot. Do you know what forensic accounting is? It's when people use accounting methods to recreate crimes, often taking apart computer systems and looking at copied over disks, or looking through spreadsheets that might have been altered. Anyway, so you can find out about forensic accounting on the web in addition to a number of other settings for accountants. If you're an accountant and you're looking to change jobs, there's also information on the web to help you find careers that are related to accounting.
These trends, a knowledge-based economy, new technology, globalization, and diversity, are shaping job growth. Let's look at a few of the fastest growing career areas. Healthcare. An aging population means a greater demand for healthcare. New technology helps people live fuller and healthier lives. Some of the jobs in high demand will be nurse practitioners, pharmacists, physician assistants, social workers, and health service administrators. Computer systems and software design. Demand will continue to grow for programmers, network administrators, and internet designers. Engineering. Computer engineering, waste management, robotics, and bioengineering will be popular engineering fields. Education. Demand for elementary and early childhood teachers is rising, especially for urban schools. Popular subjects will be math, sciences, computer software, and foreign languages. Entrepreneurship and small business. Many opportunities exist for people to start their own businesses. Right now, women are starting businesses at a faster rate than men. Does this list mean that you need to change majors and become a computer programmer? Not at all. Instead, knowing about hot careers lets you see how larger trends affect the job market. For instance, a classroom teacher will not only prepare basic lesson plans on math problems, but he might also use educational software to teach these concepts. Instead of a basic lesson on geography, students might actually talk with other students in Turkey or Thailand through the internet.
You know, I'm not technically inclined. It's just the fact that it's always moving and it's always changing is what I find so interesting about it. Plus, it's just, I mean, from where we're today, we have this information revolution. I think we're on something right now that's really changing the world. And just to be a part of that and help move that is, for me at least, really exciting.
The emerging trends that are shaping job growth are a knowledge-based economy, new technology, globalization, and diversity. These are the trends that will continue to affect the careers that you're interested in. We will explore how, later on in the course,